Hello, everyone. It's Royce here, and I want to welcome you all to my Royce in the House YouTube channel. We've got a great show for you tonight. I don't know what took me so long to get around to doing AC/DC. I absolutely love this band. There's not a harder rocking band out there as far as I'm concerned. I mean, these guys are fantastic. And anyway, so I want to introduce my panel. Next to me is Chris Elliott, been a regular for a long time. Michael Nolan, my absolute brother in crime. Michael Nolan, the bottom line, one of the best shows you could go watch anywhere. Michael, you disappeared on me. I don't understand. There you are. Okay. Michael Nolan, the bottom line. I can't say enough about Michael's channel. We just came from Michael's channel. He does a live stream every Sunday at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. And then we have like a 30-minute break and we go straight to my show. Michael is like my sister channel, my brother channel, however we describe it. We're just kind of joined at the hip, you know. And he's like a great like best friend, you know. And so if you want to see some great content, you go see Michael Nolan, the bottom line, and you'll understand quickly why he has what, Michael, like 44,000 subscribers in
it's getting up there, brother.
in a very short period of time, I might add. And next to him is our good buddy Dawson. How you doing,
Yes.
Dawson?
Hello, Chris. Hello, Michael, and hello, Royce.
Yeah,
Dawson.
Dawson's been joining us a lot lately, and we really appreciate. Very knowledgeable, a lot of fun to have on with us. Now I'm going to bring up my old co-host. When I say old, I mean
Yes.
it's been a while since Dan's been a regular on the show, and we're really glad to have him here. And so everybody, welcome Just the Facts Man. Just the Facts Man.
Dan the man.
Yeah. And Dan and I were doing shows going back, you know, years. And we had a lot of fun together. We learned a lot together. And Dan's got a lot of connections in the music industry. Great friends with Dimebag Darrell and his brother Vinnie Paul from Pantera. Dan was like practically the part of the team with him there, if not part of the team, and a bunch of other bands as well. And so anyway, Dan, we're really happy to have you here, brother.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has
Yes,
been a
it
while.
has.
Now, you told me you got what, a new computer and all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, I upgraded my system, so I got a new camera. And how does it sound?
It sounds
Sounds
excellent.
great, Dan.
Okay.
Well, no, your camera sounds, very quiet, but your audio is great.
Okay.
So anyway, good to have you here, brother. We're going to get
Yeah.
right into this AC/DC show. But first of all, I want to say to our good friends in the chat, and we love the chat, man. The chat is such an important part of the show. It's really important to us. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you. Please hit the thumbs up button. That first 50 thumbs up makes all the difference in the world for how well your show gets distributed to a wider audience. The algorithm grabs a hold of it when you hit 50 and it keeps showing it to people that are searching for content. Excuse me, I'm over here knocking my microphone around. So anyway, yeah, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up. And the other thing I want to ask you, if you're not already a subscriber, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. Just go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It's right there on the screen. And of course, we also have a membership if you want to add additional support to the show. And there's even the whole super chat thing if you care to throw a bone at us. Regardless, I just love having you here. That's the most important thing. So anyway, we're going to get right into this AC/DC show, and we're going to be spreading it around. Everybody's going to get a whole bunch of time to talk. So what do we got to say here? So AC/DC continues to electrify crowds, which was basically my title of the show. After 50 plus years, they just, recently a year or so ago had their 50-year anniversary. They're an Australian rock band formed in 1973 by Scottish-born brothers Malcolm and Angus Young. The band is pronounced Acca in Australia, ACCA DACCA. Don't ask me about that. Their music has variously been described as hard rock, blues rock, and heavy metal, but the band calls it simply rock and roll, and that's pretty common. The Grammy Award-winning Hall of Famers are going to have their new concert tour this year, the 2025 Power Up Tour. The tour will include 13 stadium stops in North America with tickets ranging in price from $56 to $37,908. So anyway, a little bit more here, and then we're going to spread it around. What makes AC/DC unique? Well, AC/DC draws its inspiration from Chicago blues, glam rock energy, creating a unique sound that combines, well, we'll say raw power of rock and roll with sophistication of glam. Their debut album, Michael, High Voltage, is a testament to this explosive fusion. AC/DC continues to electrify crowds around the world to this day. They've gone, of course, we all know this, they've underwent several lineup changes before releasing their first album, 1975's High Voltage. Membership subsequently stabilized around the Young Brothers, okay? Singer Bon Scott, drummer Phil Rudd, bassist Mark Evans. Evans was fired from the band in 97, replaced by Cliff Williams, who has appeared on every AC/DC album since 1978's Powerage, okay? In February 1980, about 7 months after the release of their breakthrough album, Highway to Hell, Scott died of acute alcohol poisoning after a night of heavy drinking. AC/DC considered disbanding, which happens so often when such a major, figure dies. But at Scott's family's request, the remaining members opted to continue the band, bringing in longtime Geordie vocalist Brian Johnson as Scott's replacement. Later that year, the band released their first album with Johnson, Back in Black, which was dedicated to Scott's memory. The album launched AC/DC to new heights of success. It became one of the best-selling albums of all time. Okay, so Michael, now you had some things you wanted to start out with right away.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up, first of all, AC/DC, one of the best bands in rock and roll, no freaking doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Are they heavy metal? I would never call them heavy metal, not even close. Their twin guitar approach, often even in the mix, is one guitar to the left, one to the right. They might bring the solos to the center just because they're a band from mainly the 70s and on, right?
Right.
But what I wanted to bring up tonight, and we could also talk later on tonight whether this is another one of those bands that might consider retiring. I've seen a whole lot of people sharing them live. Brian doesn't seem, the ones I've seen, he makes Paul McCartney sound absolutely stellar, and I've had my criticisms of Paul lately. But here's the deal, Royce. It's the Bon Scott versus Brian coming in. And of course, Brian comes in, and what album did we get? What album? We got
Back in Black.
Back in Black, right. Okay, so here's the thing that a lot of people don't bring up when they just discuss the band in general. You said, Royce, that the band is predominantly and has been predominantly controlled by the Young Brothers.
The Young Brothers.
Angus and Malcolm. And you're absolutely right. And here's a story and theory that a lot of people who are in the know about, but not a lot of general fans know about. And the fact that Bon Scott, when he died that night, he had called his girlfriend. Now, we'll get back to that in a minute. Her name is Silver Smith. Silver Smith, okay? Now, when he died, of course, the band claimed that he hadn't laid down any tracks. He hadn't written any lyrics for it. They were just putting it together while he was out partying and being hardy and all of that. And that when they hired Brian, then the lyrics were written accordingly from that point on. Even though critics have pointed out, gee, golly, because we all know Bon Scott wrote from the heart about people he knew, situations he knew about. Gee, it seemed like a whole lot. And then out came, people kept talking about this, It's like, wow, that's a miracle. Not only does he have his voice, but it's almost like that William Campbell took over Paul McCartney theory, right? Not only does he have his voice, but he can also write lyrics like him or input into that. I'm not sure how the writing process went from that point on, but I will say this, that Angus Young has always said that Bon Scott wrote a little of the lyrics from Back in Black, although he's not credited. Malcolm, on the other hand, says, nope, that's bullshit. We worked on that, and he just never came in. We never got any ideas, so we had to work from scratch from that point.
Okay.
Now, Simon Wright, a later drummer with them, all right, said that he actually heard the recordings that Angus was talking about, and that he's heard, and these recordings were when Bon Scott was playing drums on the demos for these songs. At least 4 of them we now know.
Interesting.
All right. So when Malcolm says Bon wasn't in the studio, that part of his story doesn't hold true to form. All right. So then on top of that, we want to get back to Bon Scott's girlfriend, because Bon Scott called her early in the evening the night he died. And here's what he told her, according to her. I want you to come on out here, babe. You know, I want you to celebrate with me. I just finished all the lyrics for our next album, and I just want to paint the town. Okay. So now and then on top of that, their manager, former manager, David Krim, also stated that the songwriting credits on Back in Black were, what did she say? He said, saying writing credits for the album were all wrong. So now we have their former manager saying that there was reason to believe Bon Scott wrote the lyrics for that. Bon Scott claiming that he did write all the lyrics for Back in the Black, according to Silversmith, his girlfriend. We have the manager backing up, one of the controlling brothers backing up, a former member and drummer saying he's heard it, all of this stuff. And all of this stuff is available or most of these recordings that I've been talking about, Royce, are available in a wonderful box set. But before we get to that, because I'm not going to handle that tonight, Chris is going to handle that. Correct. But I'd like to ask the Peanut Gallery tonight. I really want to hear from everybody out there what they think about this. Have they heard about this story? You know, Royce, when you emailed me and told me that we were going to be covering this tonight, 2 weeks ago, I backed into this story and had been planning to do a video on it. And I went, wow, what a fortuitous thing, because I had already done all this research. All I had to do was go grab the material. I thought I had saved the video that I had got some of this material on. One of them even by a man who wrote the book on this, that's making all the waves out there. But in the know, AC/DC fans have been bickering about this for decades, and I didn't really know that. I was a general. I had their first album, Back in Black. You know, and I loved every song I heard on the radio. I just never quite got around to, you know, there's 2 bands or 2 artists that I'll put up with, you know, a lot of stage show shenanigans and weird dress. That's Alice Cooper and David Bowie. So a guy in a pair of short pants is like, you know, and he even looks more embarrassing today, and Brian can't sing, so we might talk about all of that. However, the album or the box set is Bonfires, and guess who on the panel has a copy of that tonight, Royce?
Our one and only Chris Elliott.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Chris, take it away, brother.
All right. Actually, you know what? I'm going to defer my time. I want to hear from Dan first. Dan, can we talk to Dan, Royce? And then
I set you up perfect.
I know you did, and I'll come back to it, but I'd rather hear Dan for now than myself.
It is so good to see you, brother Dan. I can't tell you how good it is to see you.
You know, Dan, I echo that. Michael and I talk about you. Your name comes up often when we're talking.
Even when we're just talking privately, Dan, and it's all good, brother. All good.
Well, unfortunately, out of all the bands I've met and worked with and seen in concert, I've never seen AC/DC ever.
Wow.
And, it really bothers me that I never have seen them. And here they are coming in tour again. And I looked at some of the ticket prices, and if you don't have $1,000, you know,
Yeah,
You know,
you won't be
you're
able to
not
see,
gonna
you
get
won't be
in.
able to see them, right?
Well,
Right.
even the nosebleed section is like $500, so I won't be seeing them around this time. But the
Yeah.
first time I ever heard of AC/DC was back in either late '76 or early '77. I was at a record store out in Pacific Beach, out in San Diego area. I walked in this record store and they're blasting "Let There Be Rock."
Oh,
And
yeah.
Oh,
immediately,
Yeah.
the moment I heard that song, I went over there and found out who this band was and bought their album right then. And been a fan ever
Which
since.
album? Yeah, that's
Let There Be Rock.
Let there be rock.
Let
Yeah.
Let There Be Rock. The album. Okay, great. Yeah.
And so I was always a fan of it. They came in town a couple of times with Black Sabbath, and I just never was able to see them. But over the years, I've always been a big fan. And here in the last 5 or 6 years, there's a local tribute band here in Dallas called Back in Black. As a matter of fact, that's their stage name. These guys, you wouldn't believe how much they sound like AC/DC. And,
Wow.
in fact, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago when Brian Johnson was losing his hearing. They needed a singer because Brian couldn't sing anymore for that period for the rest of the tour. So they put the word out, we need a singer. And first person they came to was Darren Kaperna, the lead singer for Back in Black here in Dallas. And
Wow.
they flew him out to Atlanta, Georgia to try out for it. And Darren is one of these singers. He can sing Bon Scott and Brian Johnson, both. He can do them both.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. I mean, to hear this guy's voice change from song to song, and even his mannerisms on stage are just like Brian Johnson. Even Brian Johnson's wife even mentioned that. Said you're freaking me out. You even move like my husband.
You bring up
Yeah.
a good point, Dan, because there is subtle differences between Bon Scott's vocals and
Yes.
Brian's.
Yeah.
Dan, if I'm not mistaken, I remember the first time I think you filmed these guys, and I think you even brought some of their concert on my show before. Yeah.
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 And I mean, they're big time here in Dallas.
Yeah.
At Winata here in Dallas, they're actually starting to go throughout the country touring now as well. And if you ever want to see them, you can go to Amazon Prime. They've got a documentary of their band. It started 20 years ago.
Wow.
And it's taken this long to finally get some notoriety. But
I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called My Stupid Tribute Band is what it's called.
I love the title.
Right.
Isn't that
Well,
awesome?
that's great, Dan. I mean, like I said, I think you filmed them. You
Yes.
went to, I can't remember where you went. It was a restaurant or something, but
Yeah,
some members of KISS were supposed to show up.
that was a casino in northern Oklahoma.
Casino. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we get up there to the casino. We're expecting Paul and Gene to show up. And
That's right.
evidently they had some issues with the weather and they couldn't.
Okay.
There's some high winds in Michigan. And they couldn't take off with their plane, so they were a no-show. But Back in Black went ahead and performed, and I
Right.
went ahead and recorded that. Plus, I recorded them here locally. They play down at a venue right down the street from me called Lava Cantina.
Right.
So
I think at the time you were even experimenting with the 360-degree camera and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, you did some cool stuff with that.
I'm still figuring out that camera.
Right. Okay, well, great. We'll skip over to Chris Elliott now, and Chris is going to talk about something Michael had brought up earlier. Go ahead, Chris.
this would be what Michael was talking about, the
The bonfire, yeah.
box set. Yeah. If you really want to see a good picture of Bon when he was a kid,
That is so him.
but it's 5 CDs. It's got
Oh, nice.
3 complete concerts. One complete concert from the movie Live in Paris, Let There Be Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a whole disc of outtakes from the live at the Atlantic Records Studios. And then it's got a compilation disc of some outtakes and some of the band's favorite Bon Scott songs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. It also comes with
That'd be a good one.
a poster, but it leads right into what Michael was alluding to. The box set also includes a remastered version of Back in Black, which is pretty cool. But here's another poster
Nice.
that comes with the set. What's the best spot to put that in? And then here's the album, the picture of itself. Brian Johnson picks him up, but not quite like Bon used to.
Here's the key to remember about that album, Royce, is that the album clearly indicates, and here's the whole theory. Everybody knows that Bon Scott carried around with him, tied to his ass, practically, a notebook that he wrote lyrics on. Now, when you listen to Bonfires, you hear that you listen to all the different outtakes and things like that, and you realize they're using this set of lyrics for that song, but it didn't work, so they grabbed them and yanked them over to this song, all right? And that Bon was known to write, God, hourly, always. He'd hear a phrase, he'd write the phrase down and everything. It was like, they're saying he was so out of it that he quit breathing, because he wrote in that notebook of his like he breathed, folks.
Wow.
And like he drank. Good point,
And like
Chris.
he drank, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a drinker. That's what got him.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. But I think there is a damn good reason to think Bon Scott wrote even all of the lyrics from Back in Black, which, if that's true, holy shades of macaroni. I don't see why they don't say that. I don't see why they don't bring that up.
Yeah, I don't know either.
You know, but and it seems to be split between the two brothers as far as how the agreement went, and with the exception of Simon, their later drummer, saying he actually heard these tapes that Angus showed them to him. All other band members keep quiet because, you know, they're hire-ons for the most part between those brothers, you know.
Right. Yeah, the brothers have been the constant throughout.
You can make me spell again, Royce.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so anyway, Dawson, you a big fan of AC/DC?
Yep, big time. And
good.
I think there was probably at least a few songs on Back in Black that were written. I would probably say Giving the Dog a Bone, Let Me Put My Love Into You. I mean, like, some of these songs sound really similar to some on Highway to Hell.
Highway to Hell, yeah.
Like a couple ballad type songs and 80s songs. And I think maybe the person who might know the best would be Mutt Lange, because he produced both albums and he'd probably know where they would come from. So I think sources would probably lead toward him, I would assume.
Yeah, I haven't heard any interviews from him or any, yays or nays from him. He certainly would be the fly on the wall, wouldn't he? Yeah, Dawson.
I like your reference, "Fly on the Wall." But
hey, Michael. By the way, sorry to interrupt, but Eric Schultz has got a comment up right now that I think is directed more toward you. The overlooked great documentary, Becoming Motley Crue.
Oh, Eric. Oh, the knife twisted in my back so well. That was wonderful.
Hey, don't we have fun with that stuff?
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. Well, I mean, and I actually, Eric does this to get me to talk about him. Motley Crue, I don't hate them. I do now. I hate their current, what they've become, with Vince Neil, the backing tracks, they promise an album and we got maybe 4 tracks from Bob Rock, and they think they're going to release those over the next year. I actually love Dogs of War. I love that song, but it's like, I love the Beatles, but I hate Alan Klein, so it's just one of those. Go ahead, Dawson.
Motley Crue.
Hey, Dawson, since you've already been interrupted, let me say one thing. Okay, Jersey Devil made a comment, and I've seen it earlier. I've always heard the song Back in Black was a memorial to Bon Scott. That's where the title came from.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I heard, and that's probably true. But you wonder why, he may not have been credited to even writing up to all of those lyrics.
Yeah.
Certainly there is evidence enough that he wrote at least a portion of those. Why not be upfront about that?
Yeah.
From what I can recall from the Back in Black documentary, that there was mentioned somewhere that a few of the leftover sessions from Highway to Hell were brought on to Back in Black because, as someone said earlier, that some of the songs didn't fit on Highway to Hell.
That's
and brought
right.
it over to Back in Black.
Right.
And then Brian says
we've
that
seen
some of the lyrics, like, him, and that he did get emotional during the documentary, and he said that he didn't want to further speak about it. Out of respect to the Young brothers and to the maybe even Bon's family. But there's no doubt that there's some carryover there.
Right.
Before I bring it back to you guys, I think we'll just take it back to the beginning. We have this band in Australia, and the Young brothers are picking up their guitars, and the Young brothers and the Young family. I mean, the Young brothers' parents were recording bands from Australia, and they were really into the rhythm and blues movement, and it was a whole family thing, and they basically owned Australia's music. So I'll take it back to you guys there.
Yeah. No, you know what? You bring a good point, Dawson, because when you listen, especially those first two albums, and people calling them like heavy metal, that's where I have a problem with it. I'd say they're like about as heavy metal as Led Zeppelin, and that's about as close to that subgenre they come. But I mentioned this earlier in the stream. You listen to those early tracks, you've got a guitar on your left side playing either a riff or a staggered rhythm, with the guitar on the right side playing either a counter rhythm or a counter riff. This is very blues driven. And then they'll force that, they'll force Angus his solos into the middle of the spectrum, because by the time they were big, they were getting pretty good about, not having weird stereo yankings. Yet at the same time, they pretty much would record the two guitar tones and riffs that identify the song, not the lead guitar, from left to right, panned pretty damn hard left, and I'd say at least 45 degrees to the left, 45 degrees to the right, right? And you get this wonderful blend that so many new bands are missing. You got to get that twin guitar grooving, getting your guts going, bam, and then you've got a fucking great band, right?
That's right. That's right.
You can make us call again, Royce.
Okay.
And that was,
all right,
to me, that was the secret. That was the absolute secret to AC/DC. We were talking before the stream, folks, and Chris brought out, their logo, and Chris and I were just having a field day thinking, think of the graphic artists that they finally took to really shape that logo in. And, graphic art, I'm a bit of a graphic artist. I've done some graphic arts over the years. And I'm going to tell you, that was like manna from heaven for a graphic artist. AC/DC, that logo is as famous as the sticked out tongue of the Rolling Stones, baby.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, guys, since we've got into a little bit of show and tell already, I'm going to show just a couple of CDs, okay? I got Back in Black, Back in Black, and Back in Black.
Don't you mean?
Here's my.
I know you have Back in Black, and then back in Black, and then back in Black.
I know for a fact I have at least one more that I didn't find yet, along with Razor's Edge. But I also have, Dirty Deeds done dirt cheap. I also have Highway to
Classic.
And AC/DC Black Ice. Black
All right.
Ice. You can barely read it down here.
Yeah.
And get my eyes adjusted here. AC/DC. Who Made Who? Okay, so that's my CDs minus a couple I couldn't find in my haste, and I've got some albums I'll show later. I just thought I would bring that up for a minute. Okay, so I want to mention a couple of other things. Okay, the band's 8th studio album, For Those About to Rock, We Salute You, in 1981 was the first album to reach number 1 in the United States. Prior to the release of their next album, Flick of the Switch, 1983, Rudd left the band and was replaced by Simon Wright, being in turn replaced by Chris Slade in 1989.
And Simon Wright is the drummer who claims to have heard those Bon Scott tapes. Folks, keep that in mind. Yeah.
And the band experienced a commercial resurgence in the early 90s with the release of their 12th studio album, The Razor's Edge, which I have somewhere. It was their only album to feature Slade, who was replaced by the returning Rudd in 1994. Okay, so I'm going to make myself small, and we'll see who wants to jump in here. And who wants?
I'm still with you.
Okay.
I can jump in if you want.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
All right. Just to go with what you guys are saying about the producing, Mutt Lange didn't actually start producing them until the Highway to Hell album.
Okay.
Because the first 4 albums, the first 4 Bon Scott albums as well, they were produced by, I think he was the father, George Young. So he produced like 30 D's, Thunder, Cheap, High Voltage, Power Age, and Let There Be Rock. So they didn't even get another producer until they hit
Okay.
which ended up being their commercial breakthrough because they became a lot more, I don't know, easy on the radio, I guess you could say, or whatever,
Okay.
For
Yeah,
lack of
right
better
on.
term, you know what I mean? They became more
Yeah.
commercial sounding, I
No,
guess.
I totally hear you, man. Awesome.
And
Well,
also that
okay.
Just a quick story, and then we can go back to another thing.
Okay.
After, I think, I could be correct, or I think The Razor's Edge was their 13th album, and one of the critics was talking to Angus Young, and they were just saying, "Oh, you guys are no good. All you do is put out the same album. You had the same album 12 times in a row." And Angus said, "No, it's actually 13. Was you play one
That's
fast
pretty
song,
damn.
then
That's
lose
pretty
12,
damn
and then
funny.
this."
I think.
Yeah. We didn't have 12 in a row. We had 13. Yeah.
We had
Anyway,
13.
good
That's
for him.
right.
Translation to that, folks, is if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I'll have some more
Right,
stories
so-
later, Bryce, but you can make me
Yeah,
small. I'll see
yeah,
what
yeah,
Dawson-
Well,
right
you
on,
know what?
right on.
I always heard different riffs from them. I didn't think they were the same old, other than the fact they had that basic twin guitar attack, bass drums, 2 guitars, filling out the sound like those 70 classic rock bands often would. Those two, they had a fuller sound live than Led Zeppelin would, who would go bare often when Jimmy would choose like just one of 3 solos he played simultaneously on the album. He could only play one of those parts. These guys could more readily replicate what you heard on the album because the albums weren't overproduced.
Right. Okay, what I want to ask from the chat again is, if you haven't already hit the like button, the thumbs up button, please give it a shot. Just smash the damn thing, would you? Because the bottom line is, it's one of those few things the algorithm picks up on. If you get 50 likes early, I don't mean 50 likes 2 weeks after you've done the show, but if you get 50 likes within the first day or 2 max, what happens is it gets the algorithm to present your show to people that are searching for content. If you hit that next 50, I mean, it just kind of keeps going. It just feeds upon itself. as long as you keep getting increments of 50 and you're continuing to grow your likes. So last show we did, we actually had 50 likes by the end of the show, and the show did really well. It got a lot of views this week, and we really appreciate everybody coming through for us with that. So,
Royce, that
Yes,
show
sir.
on my channel, I've got a larger viewer base
yes,
than you,
do.
but I just wanted you to know, I told you earlier, I left you a message. Royce and I always talk in between shows via messages most of the time, but I sent him a message saying that, my biggest video I ever shared of Royce on my channel was 8,000 views. Now, for a live stream, that is humongous. And then I also had one that streamed 5,000 views that I was just as proud of. Do you know the stream from your last show that I shared, Royce, has hit 15,000 views?
Wow.
And
I really wasn't aware of that, Michael.
And it's closing in on Royce. It's closing in on 16, which would double the very best video I've shared on your stream on my channel. Man, you're starting to pick up people, and even those who tonight we both, I think, will be suffering how many viewers we have because we're going against the Oscars and all that crap.
Yeah, I know. But
Yeah,
Michael, keep it up. I love the shows you do, like the night of or the day after of the show, like we're doing right now.
Yeah,
You'll take like the best part of that show and make a shorter version of it. And they do blow up. They're just absolutely excellent, and they're good for you, and they're good for me, and we all benefit from it. So don't ever think that I don't enjoy it and appreciate it.
Well, just to let people know, because in case some content creators don't like you to share videos, even if you're on their stream, they kind of get, Royce has always, Royce has always allowed me to do this from the beginning. If Royce had. First of all, I asked permission before I ever did that, because even if I'm up here, my services are rendered. I'm already, anybody who sees me, I get subscribers from your videos over here, Royce. I get people saying, I saw you on Royce, so I came over here and subbed. So, and if you get one video or one comment like that, that means there's 10 that
10
people at least who did the same thing, but didn't bother to comment.
I was kind of the opposite of that, Michael. I saw you first, and then I saw Royce. And you, Royce, and Dan were the three that kind of caught me, and then Bruce was with you guys a bunch of times.
Yeah.
What got me was listening to one of your discussions on, I think it was originally the Coverdale Page album that I found you on.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
That was a video did Ruma. I think I got about 15,000 views on that one. I love that. But I'm going to tell you, I've always done that with permission from Royce. And it's my way of, usually what I do is I find a story within the general story we're covering here tonight. And of course it has to, and this is the only thing that bothers me, is it often has to include enough of me in it so that my viewers will watch it.
Well, no, that's exactly
And that's the most freaking frustrating thing and I can't make it too long because 2/3 of my viewers don't watch streams of any kind. They just watch my regular
I know.
videos.
Your viewers are so damn loyal, Michael.
But if anybody on this panel ever sees my videos over there and go, hey, I had a good comment, I wonder why Mike didn't do that. It's usually because of some editing problem that I can't get around, or the length of the piece, or I wanted to stay focused on a particular point. So they're sometimes heavily edited. This last one, the only thing I did is I cut out about 45 seconds of Royce introducing the channel, right? And then him and I talking right off. And for the most of the stream, most of the stream, it was just Royce and I, and Johnny came on later, but I couldn't use any of Johnny's footage because I had already covered the first 10 minutes of Royce's stream, and no editing was needed it was the complete story, and it went like gangbusters.
Right,
and I wouldn't
right.
be here in second seat at all if it wasn't for Dan. I played third fiddle to Dan right up to the day he had to leave doing this all of the time. I was more than happy with that third seat, Dan. And anytime you want your seat back, brother, I'm telling you, you got it. I'll take third seat. Sorry, Chris, that'll probably move you to number 4. But you know,
I would volunteer to go there just to allow Dan
just to get Dan back. Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
Hey,
like
hey guys, let me say one thing real quick. Let's all thank James Redding for subbing today.
Yes, and James was over on my channel. I went over one of his comments. Thanks, James.
He was. Yes, he was.
Yes.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I'd like to add something to that story I was telling you about earlier, where that local tribute band was flown down to Atlanta, Georgia to try out for AC/DC. And they get there, and I mean, the whole band went. And so when the singer went in there, he said they're just totally mesmerized. I mean, AC/DC, you know, and
Right.
Malcolm comes walking in, and Angus comes walking in, and they asked him, they said, which song do you want to sing? So Darren just started naming some songs, and next thing you know, he was up there jamming with AC/DC. And they played, said 3 or 4 songs, I guess it was. And then Darren turns around thinking, well, that's it, you know. And so he's thanking Malcolm and Angus, saying, you know, thank you for considering me for this position, all this. Then Angus says, what, you don't want to jam anymore? He goes, well, yeah. So they jam for 5 hours.
Oh my God!
Wow.
You're kidding me! Wow.
And so
that's a great story, Dan.
So after that, they flew back to Dallas, and I guess it was the very next day, someone saw a video that someone else was trying out for the singer of AC/DC, and Darren got knocked out by Axl Rose.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Right. When
No accounting for taste, Dan.
Yeah. Well, what I think their decision was, everybody knows who Axl Rose is, so he's a name. You know, he's a crowd drawer.
Well, yeah.
And this is a no-name tribute singer,
a marquee name. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
No, I mean, actually, I totally get that.
No,
But,
something else I'd like to bring up too. I know Michael mentioned this on his show about the passing of Joey Molland from Badfinger.
Yes.
And you know, back in 91 or 92, I actually did a Badfinger show. I did the lights for a Badfinger show, and I got to hang out with Joey all night long. And after the show, you know, I had a seat. I had to get his autograph, so I got his autograph, and he wrote on here, "I saw the light, Joey Molland."
Oh, wow. Dan, you just made me a very jealous man. You know, that's one of the connections that Dan and I often, when I was first coming up on the channel, we'd be talking about bands that Dan was more of a, you know, he was more of an expert than me. And then we get on to a few that I was a little more of an expert than him. But one of the bands Dan and I agreed on, I remember the show, Dan, we both agreed on air that we absolutely love the hell out of Badfinger.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
That was one of my major bands. They should be in the freaking Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now it's too late for any of them to ever know if they'll make it or not.
I thought Badfinger did get in.
Oh, did they finally get in? They were in one of my early lists. They hadn't been. Well, that's good. Good. I stand corrected.
The reason I remember that, because when I did lights for Badfinger, which was basically Joey Molland, the only one left. You know, when I met him, he had some really bad teeth. But when he was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, he had new teeth. I noticed.
Oh
that.
my God. Oh, okay. What year were they inducted? Do you remember, or around?
I'm thinking 10, 15 years ago. It's quite a while ago.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe I'm
I'm trying to remember if it was Badfinger or was it Joey Molland. I can't remember. It had to be Badfinger, I would think.
Yeah. Well, no, it wouldn't be just Joey. Joey was like, he was their George Harrison as far as songwriting.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't write as much as Tom and certainly Pete. You know, Pete.
I'll tell you what was really cool, talking to Joey Molland and knowing this guy worked with the Beatles. I mean, he's the only person I've ever spoke to that actually knew the Beatles, you know. And
yes.
Wow. It was amazing.
Yes. And
you know, what was kind of sad too that night, because he had just gotten Badfinger back together, and they were, at that time, they weren't Badfinger. They were We called them Littlefinger. They were
Little finger. I'm going to give him the little finger.
but they were literally traveling in a van and a U-Haul trailer. That's all they had.
Was this back when, because there was a short time that Joey had a bad finger and Tom had a bad finger, and they had it out. One of them had to quit, or there was something like that. And then there was another attempted regrouping of the two of them. I always liked that first album the two of them put after Pete had died. They came back as a duo called Badfinger. I thought that first album that Joey and Tom put out was excellent, Yeah. And it didn't sell worth crap. It's like without Pete Ham, he was the hit master.
Yeah, he was.
He just had such a sense of melody. He didn't even try to write hits. He just wrote songs that you just love to hear around a campfire. Those are usually the best songs in the world. I just heard before going on my stream, I was trying to calm down, and I was listening to Baby Blue.
Oh yeah.
What golden dun 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 dun. I mean, the staggering notes help as much as the melody. Dun 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 dun. Oh my God, what and then even if they couldn't get a hit off one of their songs, Nilsson could go in and record a version and get his biggest hit, "I Can't Live," which was just an album cut on a Badfinger album.
That's right.
And
my
God.
Something else. I mean, how would it feel, as a band if George Harrison sits in with you? I mean, day after day, the guitar.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. And then after he got through, because he did a couple of records with him.
Yes.
They started even emulating his style of guitar playing.
They did.
They knew.
They did.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're missing.
They were the very first signed band on the Apple label besides the Beatles. They were the second band ever signed the Apple label.
That's right. Yeah. Yes.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
And
I think it's time to maybe show a couple of albums. I'm going to start out. I was given 22 albums by an ex-son-in-law from his flooded storage unit. And you can see the damage along the bottom here. But this one is for those about to rock, AC/DC. I listened to this today. I listened to almost all my AC/DC stuff today. And so I've got this album for those about to rock. I have my AC/DC Back in Black album, of course.
Another one?
along with my 3 CDs of Back in Black, right?
That's unopened?
Oh yeah, no, it's open. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's open. And another interesting thing is, of course, these sleeves are really cool. You could almost make a show just out of the information on these sleeves if you wanted to.
Yeah.
The good old days.
There's so much written here on these albums.
Yeah.
But the thing that I want to show you now is, AC/DC just recently had a 50th anniversary. So guess what? Here is my 5th copy, including the CDs, of Back in Black. And you can see down here, it's the 50th anniversary. And you can see up here, it's in gold vinyl. So anytime I have colored vinyl.
Is it a remaster or just an anniversary gold vinyl copy of what we had?
If I'm not mistaken, that's what I would say about it, okay? And the new gold albums, the 50th anniversary, come with this nice little small poster, Back in Black, AC/DC.
I'd be interested in that copy myself because everybody knows Michael, I'm just getting back into vinyl, and I haven't gotten any AC/DC yet. So why not get the?
Why not?
I want it.
Marbled gold.
I want that.
This thing is amazing. They've got the 50th anniversary logo on one side, and the tracks from both sides on the other side.
Right.
Oh no, I listened to this very album today. It's just great. Yeah, no, they do. They have all of their albums.
Yeah, because
in the 50th anniversary. That's exactly right.
Yeah, because Back in Black is only 46 years old. So it came out 2 years after I was born.
Well,
I know,
yeah.
and you know what, Chris? Back in Black, when I think of it, I always think of it as, it's not true at all. I always think of it as like their mid '90s album. And for some strange reason, I always kind of place it there, and I think it's because that's when I started listening to it the most. But it actually came out almost a decade before that.
Yeah.
These folks are available at Walmart for a total of 20. Let's see if I can get it up here closer. $26.97.
Very fair price these days. Yeah.
No, it's a fair price. And the other one that
I'll
I
have to check it out.
This is the last one I'm going to show. I have it on the CD also. It's AC/DC Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap.
Yes.
Once again, 50th anniversary, gold vinyl. Okay, and I've got to pull this one out again too. I just love the little poster, the sleeves. Okay, here's the little poster. Dirty Deeds Done Cheap on this side. 50th anniversary.
Wow.
Then we've got the sleeve, and once again, you could make a whole show if you were doing individual albums just off the information on these sleeves. I mean, it's just there's so much here, And
we've talked about that on this channel many times. The old days, it was almost reading the liner notes was part of the enhancement of listening to vinyl. I just told one of my viewers, Royce, that when he had written in, he was one of my constant viewers, but I've got it nailed down to about one of 5 guys that could have said this. But he says, when I was back a teenager, this is on one of my latest videos. He says, I used to just turn off the lights in my bedroom, turn on AC/DC, or who was it we were talking about? But anyway, whatever album, it wasn't AC/DC, and just I'd put my headphones on and turn the lights out and just crank it all the way to 11 and listen to it. And I wrote back to him, I said, you know what, when I listen to vinyl, because these days I'm like anybody else. I can listen to AC/DC in the truck easily on my walks. They give me a power lift, But when I listen to vinyl, folks, I listen to it just like I was 15 in 1970. All right, I was 15 in 1970, and to this day, I put on some incense if I have any around. I have a special glow light that leaves the room darkened, and I crank it. I pull out the liner notes, and I go through the whole process. I never want to lose that thrill. Do any of on the panel or anybody in the Peanut Gallery tonight do the same thing? Do you still listen to and maybe not just with vinyl, maybe you do it with CD, the same experience?
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee you, if you don't carve out some quietude time for this blessed art form called rock and roll, you really cheat yourself. You do.
Michael, I couldn't agree with you more. You have to be ready to listen and do nothing but listen. That's how I feel about it, because the music is just so damn good,
Oh,
and
I hear things I didn't hear, years ago. I'll listen to an album and not get a part for a decade or two, and then all of a sudden that little triangle that they play, ting ting ting, that I never heard before, all of a sudden enters into my consciousness, and the song becomes something different, right? And people go, well, aren't you tired of playing the same old shit over and over and over? Yes, for stuff that got overplayed. It's hard for me. About 2 decades ago, anytime I hear Stairway to Heaven on the radio, I turn it off, because I don't want, I've almost gotten back to a point where I can hear that like it's new, but it's only by evading it on the radio. But unless it's like one of those overplayed, I can't stand Hotel California practically anymore.
Well, Michael, I absolutely understand what you're saying, but there have been some songs that had that effect on me too. But when it comes to like Stairway, I would be more apt out in my car to put it on the CD player on repeat, because I'm just trying to catch these little spots over and over again, And,
it's truly great. I think it's like number 3 or 4 or 5 on my top 10 list of their best songs. right?
Yeah,
So
I'll
I'm
put
not
it on
so
repeat.
tired of it that I don't recognize.
Right.
It's probably their grandest song, you know.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
I would probably choose, if we're talking about Led Zeppelin, their best song. It's got to be "Ramble On,"
That's a
closely
great
followed
song.
by "Kashmir" for
That's Led
me.
Zeppelin 2, Ramble On. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. No, you know, Led
Matter of
Zeppelin
fact,
1
I've talked about that before. That "Ramble On" is the one cut on Led Zeppelin 2 that
yes.
foreshadows the rest of Led Zeppelin, the light
Well,
part of
I'll
them,
tell you right now,
right?
Yeah.
those Led Zeppelin 1, 2, and 3 all came out while I was in high school.
Yeah,
And
me too.
Led Zeppelin 2 just blew the doors off of everything. You know, they were
Houses
just
of the Holy came out while I was still in high school, but just
okay.
barely. I was finishing up my senior
Yeah.
year when it got out. So
And that was
I
right
hear
after
you.
that was right after Zoso 4. Yeah.
Right, and I'm a
Yeah.
year younger than you, Roy. So I
Right.
was still in
Right.
high school by the time. So maybe that's why I always rate Houses of the Holy higher than you do. Is it was still in my high school. You know, by the time Physical Graffiti came out, I was married. For God's sake,
Yeah.
Right.
you know. So
I'll tell you, when I was living in Southern California, I'd leave my day job and go to my evening job, which was a martial arts instructor, 3 hours at night, 6 to 9. And I'd always get stuck on the freeway. It was unavoidable. You get stuck on the freeway, and every time I was stuck on the freeway, Stairway to Heaven came on, bar none. 5 days out of 5, Stairway to Heaven came on while I was stuck on the freeway.
you know what? I was Royce and I both have a shared history as far as martial arts. We're both black belts and instructors in Taekwondo. And when I was instructing, I was still an assistant instructor. You know, we wore the red pants.
Yeah, and
with
I
a
was
red
I
stripe.
was an assistant too because I was part-time.
Right. And later I'd get my black pants and black stripe for full instructor, but I was still assistant instructor. And one of the black belts he was a second degree, I was still first degree. And he was a kid that was at least 11, 12 years younger than me. And he turned me on to Alice in Chains. And so my instructor days was listening to Jar of Flies and Man in a Box. You know,
that's great.
So,
I loved Man in a Box. That was a trippy
interesting
video. Oh my god.
Yeah, but isn't that interesting, Royce, how we see sections of our lives and you and I just got through identifying a very specific section of a very specific kind of individual's life, and you got two different, completely different answers, right?
Yeah,
Royce, when he was an assistant, man, AC/DC was it, or Led Zeppelin?
Led Zeppelin. Stairway,
right.
Yeah.
And for me, by that time, you know, it was early 90s by the time I was, and it was getting into there. And when Jar of Flies came out later, what was that, 93 or 4? I'm trying to remember now.
It was early 90s. Yeah, that's
it was early 90s, maybe even earlier than 93 or 4. But anyway, he turned me on to it. And that's my answer I was talking about on my channel to people who think that I get too tough on all of these artists and everything. But I always, and to people who say, well, you just talk about the same old bands, you're not promoting new bands. That's not true. There's fewer new bands that are up to par, but I do cover at least a half a dozen. Yeah, I cover half a dozen new bands I'm excited about. But at that time, I was, you know, even Nirvana didn't get me in. I like their hits I heard on the radio. Didn't get me into grunge. Not even my son was trying to turn me on to the Smashing Pumpkins. And later when they did Melancholia, he turned me on to that, and I became a fan of them. But but when I heard Alice in Chains, I'll tell you, especially that acoustic album, they were doing the same thing we're talking about AC/DC tonight. On one channel, a guitar doing this, the other channel, a guitar doing that, blending it all, and very basic riff-oriented music. You can call it grunge, but it's still classic rock to me, man.
Classic rock to me. Okay, so a couple of other things I wanted to bring up were like, let's see. Johnson was advised, the singer Johnson was advised to stop touring due to his worsening hearing loss. Guns N' Roses, and this was brought up before, but Guns N' Roses frontman Axl Rose stepped in as the band's vocalist for the remainder of that year's dates. Long-term bass player and background vocalist Cliff Williams retired from AC/DC at the end of the Rock or Bust tour in 2016, and the group entered a 4-year hiatus. A reunion of the Rock or Bust lineup was announced in September 2020, and the band's 17th studio album, Power Up, was released 2 months later. And like I said, the 2025 tour is called 2025 Power Up. And I think one of their earlier tours was also referred to as Power Up. So AC/DC, just some accolades here, have sold more than 200 million. Think about this for a minute. 200 million records worldwide, including 75 million albums in the United States, making them the 9th highest selling artist in the United States and the 16th best-selling artist worldwide. Back in Black has sold an estimated 50 million units worldwide, making it the 2nd highest selling album by any artist and the highest selling album by any band. The album has sold 25 million units in the U.S., where it's the 4th highest selling album of all time. AC/DC was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame March 10th, 2003. I'm glad they got that right, aren't you guys? AC/DC ranked 4th on VH1's list of the 100 greatest artists of hard rock. Were named the 7th greatest heavy metal band of all time by MTV in 2004. AC/DC ranked number 27 on the Rolling Stones list of the 100 greatest artists of all time. Producer Rick Rubin, who wrote an essay on the band for the Rolling Stone list, referred to AC/DC as the greatest rock and roll band of all time. In 2010, VH1 ranked AC/DC number 23 in its list of the 100 greatest artists of all time. Okay, so that's pretty much
pretty close to where I'd rank them. I'd probably put them in my top 20 for sure. So a little higher than that.
Yeah.
But they're definitely one of the, the mega bands of rock and roll. My God.
Well, I got to see them
they really are.
And I think it was in 2007. I could be mistaken on the year, but it was the Molson Canadian Rock's Toronto SARS Fest.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
500,000 people. I got to see AC/DC. The top 4 bands was the Guess Who, then Rush, then AC/DC, then the Rolling Stones.
Awesome.
And all of those bands were awesome, but I felt sorry for the Rolling Stones because they had to follow up AC/DC, and that was no easy task.
Little different style there.
Yeah. Well,
Angus plays his guitar like Mick moves,
Yeah. But the landlord at the time, him and a bunch of his friends went there specifically to see the Rolling Stones. And he was saying after AC/DC, they just went back to their hotel room and just partied. He said, "We didn't even have to see the Stones. What are you going to do with that?"
Yeah.
But
that's funny.
To be fair to the Rolling Stones, they played a great show, but it was like the energy levels were right about here.
Right.
Guess Who brought it to here, Rush brought it to here, AC/DC brought it here, and then the Stones brought it back down to about here. So they had a great show, but they just couldn't reproduce the energy AC/DC had.
Yeah.
Brian Johnson was going back and forth across the whole stage, and he didn't even he wasn't even breathing hard. I mean, I'd pass out, and I was young at the time, and I'd still pass out running back and forth so many times.
I gotta ask you guys, when it comes to like Angus Young, doesn't I mean his antics, where he's on the ground like he's having some kind of fit or something, and it's just something else to watch. I mean, the guy's just wild to watch. He goes crazy on stage.
I call that
puts on a show. Not my kind of show, but I admit the man can put on a show, bro.
He definitely puts on a show.
Yeah. To me, when he's on the ground going circles, I call it the Curly Joe.
Good one. I love it.
Mick Jagger, you know how he does that with Brian Johnson? He comes under and he does a solo underneath his legs.
Yeah.
Well, he did that to Jagger. Jagger almost had a heart attack. He didn't know what to expect.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I got to make
funny.
Okay.
I got to make a correction on something I said earlier about Badfinger. No, I thought they were in the Hall of Fame. They were not in the Hall of Fame. They're still not.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I must have.
That's what I thought, because I thought they were on my list of 100 bands that aren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame so far.
Yeah, evidently they were getting an award for something else, but it was some type of award show. I thought it's been a long time ago.
Yeah, but now that thanks for the confirmation, Dan. Now let's get back to that idea. How sad is it that not a single member of Badfinger will ever know whether they will make it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or not?
Yeah.
They were so deserving, but we were so busy putting LL Cool J and Missy Elliott up there.
Yeah.
You know, we needed Willie Nelson. We absolutely had to have, what's her name? The country rock star, whatever.
Dolly Parton.
Dolly, thank you. I thought you were saying Allie. Dolly, yeah, Dolly Parton. But we don't have Badfinger. We don't have, what about Bachman Turner Overdrive? There's only one of them left, you know?
Yeah.
It's sad.
Well, I want to say James Redding made a great comment. Great show, AC/DC. Great show, I should say. And I want to thank you for saying that. And you know what?
Yep.
It's never easy picking a topic. We've spent a lot of time talking about, Black Sabbath, because they've got their final concert coming up, which is supposed to be all of the original lineup, including Ozzy Osbourne. And Michael and I have been covering that for close to a year now with shows, because because it's been an obsession with Ozzy, okay, to do a final show, a proper farewell and goodbye to the fans and a thank you to the fans. And he really wants to do this bad. And we're really hoping it turns out, but his role keeps being downgraded. This show isn't on that. I'm getting carried away here. But the whole reason I brought this up is because we're always looking for new shows. AC/DC came to me late. They came to me yesterday, and I spent the whole week trying to decide what to do, because we've had so many Zeppelin shows, so many Sabbath shows, so many Ozzy shows. And
well, I think you picked a good one tonight, Royce. I think you picked the right one.
Was excellent, but I wanted to ask the chat. I was thinking about next week maybe covering, doing like an Alice Cooper show, who I saw about close to 3 years ago in concert.
Yeah.
And that's my initial idea, but it's subject to change. And I wanted to ask the chat if you guys want to just throw out the name of a band or artist that you'd like to see a show on, we'll put it on a list and see if we can accommodate this. I mean,
and if it's not a band that we can cover or devote an entire stream to, we'll figure a way to work that band into a broader concept stream. Okay.
You know what? That's right. Where we cover a few bands that maybe don't have the horsepower to be an entire show on their own.
For example, I would love to cover the band JoJo Gunn. Now, they were very short-lived, and they only put out one truly great album, and followed that up with an okay album. Jay Ferguson later on had a couple of hits in the top 40. Always was a fan of him as a solo artist as well. But the band, other than, you have to go back to Spirit, and Spirit has their fanship, but Spirit fans are far and few between, and JoJo Gunn fans are even farther and fewer between. But if you guys got a band that would marry up good with that, we could get a big concept going, and maybe I could share some of my thoughts on one of the best albums in rock and roll, JoJo Gunn, by the band JoJo Gunn, because it is a masterpiece.
I like Spirit. Spirit be good. I actually did sound for Spirit back in the early 90s.
Oh, damn, we could do all right. Now we're getting
Randy, California. Oh yeah.
Okay. Right. And we could do bands you never thought were connected. There's an idea, Royce. Bands you never thought were connected to each other.
I'm writing all this down.
Yeah. And if we could get a few suggestions from the Peanut Gallery, Robin Trower, yes.
Yeah, Robin Trower.
Oh my God. I could talk for days on Bridge of Sighs. Dan could too. Oh yeah, Royce, Robin Trower, Spirit,
I just wrote that
and
down.
JoJo Gunn.
Can we
Those
have
three
Eric
bands.
Singer on the show?
What's that?
I don't know if James is just kidding or not. Mickey Dolenz joined Iron Maiden. Sweet.
No.
Okay.
You know what?
I thought it was a
Despite
joke.
the fact that the Monkees weren't the greatest rock band on the planet, and at the beginning, not even a real rock band, I think they belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I'm a Monkees fan. Go figure.
I
I
saw
do
Mickey.
not apologize for that.
I saw Mickey in concert the summer of '23.
Yeah, you know what,
you
Dan?
know,
Kimberly and I almost went to go see Michael Nesmith and Mickey
yeah.
perform here in Modesto, and we missed it. You know, things got hot at home and had to put out a few fires. And I always regretted not seeing it because Michael died shortly after.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But I'm and Caitlin in the Peanut Gallery is a major Monkees fan.
Yeah.
You know, it's really weird. You'd be surprised how many people who are into heavy rock also admit to loving the Monkees.
Well, I'll
know?
tell you, Michael. It's well known that the Monkees were loved by everybody in Laurel Canyon.
Oh yeah.
And they lived up there. They had parties at their houses. One of them had a party that was nude only. You could only come to the party if you were completely naked.
That was Peter.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly
Peter the
right.
nudist. You know, that's all they said. He just hated walking around in clothes. It's not like he walked around with an erection trying to bump, although I'm sure he did. But I mean, he just felt he is a true nudist. He just you know, and he bought into that whole hippie lifestyle, and it was perfect for the way he wanted to be, and a la natural. You know,
But I thought that was a great story. I thought.
I think it's pretty cool that there's still Monkey fans that weren't even around when the Monkees were around.
Hey, Gary Spring, thank you, brother. Thanks for showing up.
A lot of new fans.
When I watched the Monkees, I was like 10 years old, and that was in
me too.
Mid 60s. You know.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I'll tell you guys some of the bands that have come up so far. I've got them written down over here. We've got Aerosmith from Jersey Devil, which I thought was a good one. I've got I
do Aerosmith any night, man.
Dawson brought up Green Day, and I actually like Green Day. I mean, they're
the one band out of that ilk that I kind of like. Yeah,
my kids and their cousins and all their friends were listening to Green Day.
Thank you.
You know, and but it was good. Okay.
They're part of that subgenre I like to call mid '90s sophomoric.
That's right.
Pop rock almost, even though Green Day's much more than that. But you know, you can kind of put them in that group of. But you know, Freddie's mom's tits sure look good tonight, kind of lyrics.
Yeah. Well, Robin Trower was brought up. The Who and the Doors were brought up by Eric Schultz. We did back-to-back concerts, The Who and the Doors, about 2.5 months ago.
The Who did real well. The Doors, not so much. But we also, as a panel, recognize we didn't handle it right. We will be handling the Doors down the road, folks.
Yes, we absolutely will. Yeah. We will. We'll handle them better.
Did you mention Boston?
No.
Jethro Tull. There's God. I'm a major Tull fan. So any night for Jethro.
I am too, and I have about 7 of his albums too.
Oh God, I had every single one of them, and I've already collected. I think I've got 4. I have Aqualung, and the one I would really want to get. I don't know why it's kind of my own personal favorite. It's either I got Heavy Horses, which would be my number 3. Aqualung would be my number 1, but my personal favorite, for some strange reason, is Stormwatch.
I was going to say Songs from the Wood.
Anyway, wonderful album. You know?
I was going to say, you know, some of these, I'm always seeing these old albums, music I used to listen to in the 60s that I never hung on to any of. You know, like somebody said Spirit earlier. Humble Pie with Steve Marriott, who was offered the first job to sing for Led Zeppelin by Jimmy Page. Before it went to Superlungs Reed and then ultimately to Robert Plant. Steve Marriott from Humble Pie was offered that job. So there's bands like that. I don't have any of their music of. Humble Pie, Spirit. I don't have any Quicksilver Messenger Service, which I should have. We could do a show where we combine 3 or 4 of these bands that aren't as talked about today as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
The Quicksilver Messenger
Or-
service is the very
Oh,
first
God.
concert I ever went to.
All right, and there's another band that it wouldn't. Maybe we could put a whole, stream on it, but for fans in general, we need to talk about. Matter of fact, it's been a while since we've done Northern California based psychedelic bands and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
been a lot. It's been a while since we've investigated Laurel Canyon. Those are
Yeah, it has. One of
stories
my,
we can reinvestigate every year and a half or so.
because you can't really cover them in a single show. I've got a show
No,
on
you can't.
Laurel Canyon that's got, I don't know, up to 10,000 views.
One of my
And-
favorite
and-
shows I ever did was with the Laurel
Yeah.
Canyon show with you, Royce. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
no, that was good. But you know what? There's so many aspects to it. You couldn't even possibly, you could do a whole new show a month later, not talk about any of the previous things and have a unique show that was, had a lot of good information in it. But Gary Spring brought up Canned Heat. I absolutely love Canned Heat.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Steelers Wheel. There's a ton of them out there that, they've got trillions of fans, but well, not trillions, but they've got tens of thousands of fans even to this day.
Right.
But they wouldn't necessarily hold as an entire episode. But man, can you imagine Canned Heat, Steelers Wheel, those bands that were the bands that were putting out songs that were almost like I was going to say pointing to what was it? Sultans of Swing, Dire Straits.
Dire
sound.
Straits. Yeah. They
You
had
know?
I
Mark
love
Knopfler
that
kinda
band.
sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Or
great.
do a stream on how a certain subgenre evolved. From
Right.
like I'll give you an example. They say that the first heavy metal album was Black Sabbath. Some say no, it was the second album, which is ridiculous. If you're going to say the second album was rock and roll's first heavy metal album, how can you not include the album prior to that?
Right.
In my opinion.
Thin-
All right, but
Thin
then
Lizzy-
how heavy metal progressed on that. Now we don't have to do it. I'm just giving you an example, but
No,
we
I
can
know.
do that with blues-based rock and how it progressed, and how
right.
everybody made this subgenre or that subgenre out of blues. There's tons of stuff we can talk.
Well,
James Redding brought up Thin Lizzy, and that's another kind of a blast
Oh,
from the
good one.
past
Yeah.
that you don't hear about as much anymore. And
What
that
about
it'd be nice
what about Don't Fear the Reaper?
Blue Oyster
Blue
Cult.
Oyster Cult.
Blue Oyster Cult. My
Yeah,
God.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Can we have a show on Kiss and we could bring Eric Singer on?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if Eric Singer would come on. I know him personally.
not
I walked around.
Kiss.
I walked
Not
around.
Kiss.
I walked around with him in London, and I have a video of my granddaughter singing Beth with him on stage. And if I had that in my
No, he was very. He was so loving to her and everything. And Kiss made two good albums anyway. I've got my problems with the band, but I'll show up on any show. Dawson, you want to talk about Kiss?
I love Sonic Boom. I have Sonic Boom.
Oh, okay. Not familiar with it really. I liked their first. There's a couple albums I like. One of their lives and one of their studios, and they have a, and I believe they belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just because of what they brought to rock and roll and everything. But I'm not a fan.
Does anybody want to watch my granddaughter right now singing with Eric Singer?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. Okay. Let me just say this. To the left of them was Dizzy Reed, who played some keyboards for Guns N' Roses. Directly behind them, playing the guitar, was Eric Dover, who played on Jellyfish and Slash's. That wasn't Snake Pit. What was the other one? Actually, a better
Velvet
band.
Revolver.
Yeah, he played Velvet Revolver. Back in the very back was Steven Adler, the original Guns N' Roses drummer.
Whoa.
So I mean, these were the kind of concerts my ex-son-in-law used to put on, and all his friends from LA, from all these different bands, would come up there, and it was just amazing. I mean, we had so many people. I mean, we had Ryan Roxy, guitarist for Alice Cooper, who's every time I see him, he's more fluid than he was the time before, which I thought was impossible. But he's an amazing guitarist, way underrated. So Ryan Roxy was there on every single show. People like Eric Dover from Slash's band was there every show. Every time Steven Adler would show up, but also who would show up was Eric Singer, the drummer for Kiss, and Tommy Clufetis, the drummer for Ozzy. And then also Slim Jim Phantom, who used to own the club they all played at, the Cat Club, I think it was called, on Sunset. He never really got to get on the whole drum set because you had Tommy Clufetis, who's a wild man on the drums. He's like a John Bonham. And you had Eric Singer there. So poor, what's his name? Slim Jim Phantom was always over there with a single snare drum. And I was kind of feeling like, God damn, poor, he must really be bummed out he can't get behind the set. And all of a sudden I saw him at one of his own shows, and all he did was stand there and play the snare drum. It was like normal for him.
Yeah.
Funny. Well, we had Sebastian Bach from, I can't think of the name right now, but Skid Row, of course. I was a fan of that band. He was there one time, and I mean, if I was a real autograph hound, I could have probably had about 50 autographed albums from all of those shows we were doing up there. Teddy Zigzag was there, another keyboardist for Guns N' Roses, and it was those shows were actually a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun. But you saw my granddaughter there. And anyway, enough. Let's go on.
How old is she now, Royce?
She's a junior in high school.
Isn't that something? My, how time flies. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't it?
Wow.
So I hope I don't get in trouble for playing that. It's not the first time I played it. I played it a lot of times. I do have to share revenue with Kiss if it makes any money. That's another thing that I don't know how much people in the chat think about. We do these shows, and I can't tell you how much time we spend doing them. And Michael, like myself, is married, and he spends a lot of time with his wife. But I mean, when we're studying for these shows on Saturday, still doing some studying on Sunday, putting things up, putting it all together, you can practically go through your whole weekend. So I have to make a judgment call, as does Michael. I would really like to have a show that's somewhat successful on, we get hundreds of subscribers, not 50 or 75 or 150, because of the time that's put in. You want the show to be successful, and you know what? And so sometimes people will suggest a show, and I'll think, I just don't think it's going to do well. But at the same time, many of the ones that I come up with don't do well as well. You just don't know. You just don't know. We just keep getting better. We keep trying new things. We're trying to be good content, makers. And so I think we're kind of getting in a groove now. We're doing shows that people really want to see, and I think tonight's a good example of that. We've done a lot of Led Zeppelin stuff, a lot of Black Sabbath stuff, but that's just a touch of the iceberg. I mean, I've done many. I've covered almost every single Beatles album one at a time. Made a show out of it. I don't think I did Sgt. Pepper's and Magical Mystery Tour. I got to get back to that. Plus, I got some old stuff, Hamburg concerts before they were even the Beatles. Wow. And
Royce, I've had a video written that I haven't put out. I put out kind of a video like that, comparing Sgt. Pepper and Magical Mystery Tour. That would be a good show to handle, talking about both of those albums. And of course, we would have to extend it to a portion of the show also covering Yellow Submarine and its variants. because there is a whole period of the Beatles in those 3 albums that is different from
different.
early Beatles. It's
Yeah.
different from mid Beatles, and it's different from late Beatles.
Michael,
right?
and I fell in love with the Beatles during that era. I had been getting
Yeah.
away from them. We all loved the Beatles when they were the British invasion, you know.
Right.
And, they took the country by storm, if not the world by storm. But you know, then a lot of other heavier bands started coming along, and I started getting into more psychedelic stuff. And then here the Beatles come out with Sgt. Pepper's, and actually lay claim to owning the psychedelic period. You know. So anyway, you've heard my stories about Sgt. Pepper's at my brother's house as a teenager.
It's not the first psychedelic album ever, but it is the first perfect psychedelic album. I mean, it epitomizes psychedelia.
No. Psychedelia goes way, way back. But I really like what Gary Springs said here. Alvin Lee was an awesome guitar player.
Yes, he was. 10 years gone.
10 years after. When he did
yeah.
It's okay. When he did Going Home at Woodstock, mind-boggling. Just
one of the fastest guitar players around, too. Really fast.
God.
But not just fast, but technical. Like everybody can play fast, but he had it down. Like Mom's team and Joe Satriani and those guys, he was definitely their inspiration.
Absolutely right.
I'm still impressed by the late Terry Cadd.
Oh, well, me too.
We also, you know, Alvin Lee has a ton of live albums out there, and they practically give them away at the used record stores. I mean, I've got 3 or 4 of them myself, but there's just so much that it's so easy to miss. And like I said, I've covered Beach Boys, I've covered Creedence Clearwater, I haven't covered Santana, and I absolutely love Santana. But Michael's right. The psychedelic San Francisco area would be a great show, because you've got all the bands that played at Golden Gate Park for free, and of course, the Grateful Dead were the big band behind it. But it was Santana back then that opened for the Grateful Dead. Grateful Dead got them their job at Woodstock because they didn't even have a single album out when they played at Woodstock. But they blew up at Woodstock. That song they did, Soul Sacrifice, they were all stoned out of their minds on acid. In fact, Jerry Garcia saw him at the airport, and he goes, "Hey, Carlos!" And they all went, and Carlos Santana goes over to see. He goes, "Hey, you guys want to drop some acid?" Carlos goes, "Oh, Jerry, we don't know when we're going on. We don't know when we're going on." He goes, "Oh, no, you guys are going on after me, and I'm not going on for 7 hours." They go, "Oh, okay." So they all drop acid, and they're just fried out of their minds in this little back room. The door swings open. The guy goes, "Santana, you're up."
Yeah.
Some of the bands couldn't get through. It's too crowded. And they went up like that and just tore the damn roof off. What an amazing performance. Everybody was a Santana fan after Woodstock.
Well, that was definitely one of the highlights of that entire weekend, was watching them, especially.
Oh, no, it absolutely was. Yeah. Absolutely was.
Soul Sacrifice.
And such a refreshing sound and approach to rock and roll, too.
Oh, and that drummer they had, and Carlos is playing, it was just, it was just, like nothing you've ever seen before.
Yeah.
Probably nothing they'd ever seen before either.
Well, if we run out of bands to talk about, we could always talk about Pantera. I could.
Oh, I know. Well,
I'm a little biased about that. But.
I want people to know that Dan here was close personal friends. Hold on, let me make you bigger, Dawson. Dan was Pantera, yeah, Cowboys from Hell, yeah. Dan was a close personal friend of Dimebag Darrell and Vinnie Paul, his brother, the drummer, both of who are deceased now. And so anyway, Dan started the Ride for Dime, and yeah, look at that. Dan started Ride for Dime, and let's see what else Dawson has here. Drumstick.
That's all I have for Pantera. I have some Pantera tickets. That's pretty much it.
Dan started Ride for Dime, which was a celebration of Dimebag Darrell's life, and it actually spread to many other states, didn't it? And Sharon Osbourne asked you to do that, didn't she?
Yeah, well, we were in 12 cities, 2 continents, and almost a 3rd continent, but then I stepped down. There's some trouble in the organization. I stepped down.
Oh yeah, that happens.
But then once it was cleared up, they called me back. But The problem wasn't with me. The problem was somebody else running the operation, but we were able to clear it up. But then, yeah, at one time, one of the rides, I forgot what year it was. I was always the lead motorcycle, and we had over 350 motorcycles one time, and we're on this stretch of road. I look in my rearview mirror, and it's like 15 miles. All I could see was motorcycles. And I went, "Oh my God,
that's awesome, man!"
We did that. We did that from 2005 until 2016 every year.
Wow.
And we've had Ace Frehley perform for us. Who else performed? Slipknot, a bunch of other big bands.
Oh yeah, big bands. Yeah, everybody wanted to pay
Corey
tribute to
Taylor.
Dimebag Darrell. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, listen, guys. We've been going for an hour and a half now, which is a longer show right now because we've been paring it down into the hour range. But when it goes over, it's okay. But I want to thank everybody in the chat. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Love the chat. You guys are great. If you haven't smashed the thumbs up button yet, please do. If you're not a subscriber yet, please subscribe. All you got to do is hit that button on the show right now. So anyway, thank you all so very much. And I just like some closing comments. I'll start. I was really happy to do AC/DC tonight. I thought that was a great topic. Great topic. They have so much good stuff out there. I'm surprised I haven't done it sooner. I want to start digging into the ones that I've been neglecting for whatever reason. And AC/DC was kind of a good start for that. But thank you all for joining me. We had a great panel tonight. I mean, Chris Elliott, Michael Nolan, Dawson, Dan the Man.
Dan the Man.
Yeah, Dan the Man. Just the facts, man, Dan.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, look Dan up. Dan's got a great show. Dan, you've got a big show too. You've been doing this for a long time.
Well, I've taken about 2 years off.
Yeah.
So I got to get back into it.
Well, you know where to come when you're ready.
Right. And when you get rolling, Dan, let me know. I'll put all the power of my channel behind you, brother.
All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Right. Yeah, that's how we roll, isn't it? So
absolutely.
Brother Michael here, he helps us all out. And I know that, I really have enjoyed my relationship with Michael and the shows we do together. I think we're really in sync on so much of this stuff, and it's just great. So, all right. Well, that's about all I've got to say for tonight, Chris.
If we want, and we've mentioned this a few times as well. See, there's a little flag over here over my shoulder. We could try doing a show on bands from there as well.
Oh, absolutely. I've got 3 or 4, 5, 6 that I could talk about. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Just a thought.
Okay, Michael, any closing thoughts?
Oh, just by the way, we've got 34 thumbs ups. We just got 2 extra. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very
much. If you're watching this later, please give us a thumbs up. We always shoot for 50 to begin with. And the reason we're doing that, folks, is we're trying so that we don't have to harass you for 50, so we can start harassing you for 100. But we can't get to harassing you for 100 thumbs up until we can solidify that
consistently get 50. That's exactly right.
So shameless plug accomplished. Thank you, Roy, so much for having me on. That's all I got to say.
Absolutely, brother. It's your show too.
Always, brother.
Yeah, and I enjoyed your show earlier. Michael Nolan.
Thank you.
The Bottom Line, fastest growing show on YouTube. For obvious reasons, he has excellent content. And directly below him, we have Dawson. What have you got to say for yourself, Dawson, as a final
Dave Evans, the original singer from AC/DC. He played with the tribute band Thunderstruck.
Oh, my God.
In the first row.
Wow,
and
that's
then
amazing.
A few months ago, I also met Simon Wright, the drummer from AC/DC, really nice guy. And this is also a tour shirt from the Who Made Who in 1986. So, yeah, big-time AC/DC fan. I met some of the AC/DC members, and thank you for having me on the show today.
Oh, no, you're welcome.
I got you covered, Royce.
Yeah, no, you do, yeah.
You really shined tonight, by the way, Dawson. I really appreciated your input.
You totally did.
Did a great job.
Dan, closing comments?
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for having me back after such a long hiatus.
Oh, yeah, always.
A great show. And I'd like to give a shout out to my fiance, Joanne.
Oh, good.
Oh, well, hello, Joanne, and welcome to the family.
Hi, Joanne. Yes, yes.
Hey, Dan, I got a quick question for you. Quick question for you, Dan.
Okay.
Does anyone ever tell you look like Bob Seger?
A couple times.
Just looking at you.
Well,
and I'm
I'm-
thinking,
My hair is longer than Bob's now.
I've been missing Dan because I'm tired of being the only long hair up here.
Yeah. We're a throwback to the 70s, I guess.
We certainly are, buddy.
Dan looks like Rex Brown.
I don't claim that. You know,
All right. So thank you guys. I really appreciate y'all coming here and helping me tonight, making this a better show, a quality show. Thank you, everybody in the chat. We really appreciate you being here.
Yep.
Please come back next Sunday. I've got some stuff I'll be doing midweek. I'll be putting out a kind of a fun show. It'll be a pre-recorded, probably be a little longer than normal. It's Jeff Beck talking about all these different artists that he knew, and funny stories about them. So I've actually dropped a couple of the people he was talking about because I don't want it to turn into an hour-long show. I just want, if it's 10 minutes, great. If it's 20, that's fine too. It's just a pre-recorded. So anyway, I'll have stuff like that coming out. I have about maybe 8 shows like that in my Word documents that I'm editing and trying to get ready. And I'd like to put at least one out a week along with a couple of, 15-second shorts kind of a thing. But anyway, so there'll be more stuff coming out. There'll be more stuff going into the membership videos, membership only, which maybe after several months, they get released one at a time, but I need to build my stock of membership videos up so I have more to offer the people that join my membership. And but anyway, thank you all so much.
Another excellent way to support Royce in the House.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, guys, thank you all so much, and we really appreciate everybody being here. And that's what's going on in Royce's world tonight. Thank you once more.
Night all.
I'll finish scrolling through the chat, and then we're closing it out, baby. Closing it out.
Good night.
Winslow Red Cross. Wow. Well, thanks for showing up. Dave Evans and ACD. Interesting to see a band with original incarnation. Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks for saying that, Winslow Red Cross. We really appreciate it. Okay, folks. So we are Piccolino the Cat, Caitlin. We are signing off, friends. Thank you.